All right. Welcome to I Read the Clermont Sun so you don't have to for August 16th. This is the August 14th edition of the Clermont Sun, where the press deadline would have been August 11th. So it's almost a week old by the time it comes out. And I'm going to try to go, well, I'm probably go the regular speed. So the next 30 minutes or so, I'll walk through the paper for today. So let's go for it and let's bring it up on screen. So here is the Clermont Sun for August 14th. And once again, you have the number one news story in Clermont County is formulaically some update on construction. And the I keep suggesting that maybe the construction articles should have a little map, or there should just be an inside story every week showing, annotating on a map of the county with numbers where there's big construction projects. But I guess this is easy, formulaic, and it allows Megan Alley to claim she wrote a story. And so you see her byline here of Megan Alley writing this story about the construction projects. All right. Then we have a story on also Megan Alley at the talking about sheriff's National Night Out event that was on August 5th. I didn't see Megan there. I never see Megan anywhere. I never see anybody from. If I went to sporting events, I think I would see the sports guy probably, but you never see Megan Alley at anything. So you see for the whole picture of police night out, the front page picture on the paper is a guy with a dog out in the field. Okay, not people celebrating or the many booths. You can go watch. I did a report on this where I walked around. I talked to several people and interviewed a few people as well. I did what Megan doesn't do. All right, then the next thing on the front page, I'm gonna pop back out here just to see the front page. We're down to the bottom, like the fold. The fold, like below the fold or right on the fold, is an article which is typical of the Clermont Sun about this article is about the Liberty Landing redevelopment in New Richmond, and it features three-story pictures of the same thing, people turning dirt at some ceremonial groundbreaking. And where did this story come from? Submitted by the office of Ohio Governor DeWine. So it just is another example of how pathetic this paper is. Is that Megan Alley was not there? Nobody was there. You can go watch. I did a video piece on this that was about 15 minutes of interviews where I interviewed Bob Lees, Dick Feldkamp, Linda. I didn't interview him, but I chased them with them refusing to answer questions. Linda Fraley, Greg Gentile, Tom Niehaus, and others. Megan was not present. I never see her anywhere. I never see the Sun anywhere collecting news stories. And you see what happens is an actual news event that should have had somebody there covering it from a place that says it's the paper for our county was not covered at all. And instead they print, because at the Clermont Sun, it's Pravda. It basically reprints government articles. And we're going to see that throughout. This is completely contrary to what the founding fathers that the press should be, not just a vehicle to reprint what the elites want printed. That's what the Soviets thought the press should be. And you start to realize that many of the people that talk a lot about their conservative values and stuff are actually pretty much like Soviets in terms of their views of how things should happen. So you have, I wonder if Mike DeWine put out something to the press, like even the Sun or the Enquirer, saying he was going to be there and offering interviews. These politicians all hide from interviews. By the way, I want to make a comment here. I mean, that's a little off point. Congressman David Taylor has never run away from me coming at him to ask a question. So I just want to give a shout out to him. You can tell the difference between the political class that runs. I mean, there's people like David Taylor who've never run. There's people in the middle, Adam Byrd, that will take questions but acts like he's frustrated with me because he has to do that to keep his dance card full with the insiders. And then people that constantly run away, like Michael Logue, Joe Dills, et cetera. Linda Fraley, and people that want to be in office that run away, Greg Gentile as well. All right. So let's go. That was page one. So the whole page one of the paper was a construction update, a thing about police night out with a picture of a guy with a dog, and then half the page is an article submitted by the governor. Okay, Pravda. Now let's go to page 2. Now it says the governor thing is, the police night out thing is continued on this page. So there's some other. Let me zoom in here. There's some other pictures here. A few pictures. And that's it. Okay. And by the way, you notice they don't even say where the pictures came from anymore. They've just quit. Oh no, it does say photo courtesy Clermont County Sheriff's Office, because the newspaper never covers anything. If you want to see authentic pictures and videos taken at this event, go to the Watchdog Wire Facebook page and you'll find actual news stories and coverage from the only legitimate news source within Clermont County, which is the Watchdog Wire. Okay. Now we got some more about DeWine here from his submitted article. So all of page 2 is basically how much words are on this page. It's some ads, some pictures, and very few words. One from the press release from the governor, and one from a little bit from this Sheriff's Night Out event. You notice what's not covered in here is things like the Union Township Police Night Out, or the Pierce Township Police Night Out, or I'm assuming the Miami Township Police Night Out was all in the range. None of those are covered at all in here, I don't think. I flipped through here, and I don't think any of those were covered. So page 3, we're up to page 3 of our 12 pages of crap. And page 3 is the community calendar. So that's it. All right. It doesn't have, sometimes they have things in here that already took place and so forth, and it doesn't. And then the Sudoku, the Hocus Pocus, the Jungle Gyms ad, and the crossword. That's a typical formulaic page that's there every week. Now we're into opinion. And I'm stunned. The guy, his name just popped out of my head. The guy that does the every week article or two about wanting more money for vets, he doesn't have an article this week. So I hope he's okay. But there isn't an article. You got this history corner deal about Korea. This guy, when he's in here, a lot of the stuff's about Korea. Not against Korea, not against talking about Korea, not against learning about Korea and the Korean War. I'm just not sure this is the top editorial thing in the paper. When you have things like significant transition at school districts like West Clermont, you have a cover-up taking place at Milford schools that's never been covered involving a wrestling coach. But instead we get like the opinion page. So get this. This is the opinion page. It is not really opinion even. This is like just a column on the Korean War. Okay. Then we have an article by David Poltz, who's the new superintendent at West Clermont Schools, which is, I think, the biggest district in the county. And it's got all the typical bullshit tripe that you get from these kind of people. So I highlighted a few of the lines. I've grown as a leader and stayed grounded in the belief that strong schools start with strong relationships. No, what they start with is competent leadership. What they start with is excellent curriculum. Okay. What they start with is a focus on results, not, this is just this, so West Clermont, I think, made a lot of progress. I'm actually sad to see Natasha Adams go. But the issues with these school systems is they've become these like bureaucratic malaises of political correct speak. West Clermont just got so shellacked in a tax measure that it was like 70, it was like 80-20. It was like 80-20 against the tax measure. Okay. Against. Somebody said to me, which I love the comment, even the liberals voted against the tax increase for West Clermont schools to get that kind of percentage. So it says that there's some serious issues if the community and the schools are so disconnected that the schools think they need a significant tax increase and to rebuild a bunch of buildings. And 80-20, the community tells them, no, you don't. And so David Poltz here is, and it's we never give what we're actually going to do. There's no plan. His plan is, and I'm looking at this third column over, his plan is, I'll be finding opportunities to engage with students, staff, and families to listen to ensure every voice helps. You know what? We don't care about dumb voices. We don't need them to help. Shapes the future. It's again, we have all these, they have had focus groups and things like this. And this is true of pretty much any of these school districts at this point. They have all these engagement sessions, but they never have a plan that makes any effing sense. It's all just baloney. And now, after we just had like 2 years of engagement, and he was I think the assistant superintendent. What is his first thing you're going to do? Engagement. Okay. Well, it's like, give me a fucking break. Give me a plan. Okay. Talk to me about how important it is that there's nothing going to distract you. Okay. From getting these kids out of these schools with the skills they need to be successful in the workplace. And you're not going to let LGBT crap, political crap, woke crap, any of that get in the way. You start saying that as a leader of a school, people are going to start clapping. People are going to start clapping and cheering. And they might vote for when you say you need more money when you're actually doing shit that makes sense versus your teachers are taping developmentally disabled people to chairs and you're losing, what was it, $1 million or more than $1 million on a fraud scheme because somebody was subject to a phishing attack on the web that caused the school to lose a bunch of money. Okay. So looking ahead as focus remains on supporting student-centered learning in every classroom. I don't know what that means exactly. That sounds like political bullshit. It's like, why don't we focus on reading, writing, arithmetic in every classroom? There's a thing. What if Mr. Plote said, I'm going to focus on reading, writing, arithmetic in every classroom? Clapping. But instead, you get this NAMBY, supporting student-centered learning, something you can't even understand. What does that actually mean, student-centered learning? Like, so if the student thinks they're gay, we're going to teach them about gay stuff? Is that student-centered? Whatever they want to learn, okay? I don't know what it means. Continuing meaningful community engagement, maintaining transparency and stewardship with our finances, except for never telling us exactly what happened and who was responsible, who was accountable for the $1 million plus scam, and advancing our 2030 strategic plan. We don't know what that means. Portrait of a graduate. I don't know what that means. Does the graduate have purple hair? Is or is the graduate somebody who can go be successful in a career out of high school and going into a trade or going on to higher learning that means something? So, I appreciate West Clermont has had a lot of these little articles like this, but I think this is emblematic of all districts where why can't these people, keep in mind, all of these people who are in leadership and teaching, whether they're even in private schools or public schools, they've all been trained in the same system. So they've been trained gobbledygook, gobbledygook. And it would be so easy for them to I don't think they can pivot to common sense talk like reading, writing, arithmetic because they don't, they can't talk about things that are, things like we got to keep distractions out of the classroom. I can't be happier that we're going to get phones out of there. We're going to get this out of there. We're going to get the kids quit horn dogging each other. We're going to make sure teachers are held to a high standard. None of that in here because it's got to all be this namby-pamby stuff. All right, let's go. Now we got somebody about, I love articles always by people that are lifelong Republicans dissing President Trump. So here's a lifelong Republican. And I get her points. I read this. This is about Big Pharma and basically that Big Pharma is ripping off the people. I agree. I think that the government is what has caused that because the more the government gets involved in anything, the more effed up it becomes, right? Where the private sector would be involved. So education, higher education, medical, the more the government gets involved, but idiot citizens are like, oh, we want more government. We want more government there. So Big Pharma, by the way, Big Pharma, I think one of the biggest issues with our medical system today is that we have pharmacologicals at the doctor level is a solution to every problem, and they are to mask symptoms, not fix problems. And so, that before obviously there's pharmacy products that are absolutely essential, and I'm not dissing those. But right now we have a world in which part of the issue is that our pharma companies, because of the way doctors have been brainwashed into pharmacological solutions to every problem, are just inventing expensive drugs for everything. If you're fat, don't work out or just quit eating so much. Get a drug. You got high cholesterol, don't change your diet or do anything different. Get a drug. Everything's a drug. So then we wonder why we're all going bankrupt on big pharma products. It's because big pharma, we've fallen into this trap where everything is a drug. But remember, Tanja is a lifelong Republican. She's from Summit County, Utah, which is not that her comments are not relevant here, but do we not have anybody here that has any comments on anything? I think the locals have given up on putting stuff in this paper because nobody reads the paper. It's got like 1,100 print subscribers to the paper total. All right. Then we got Nestle Purina giving out some money. Okay. Submitted by Nestle Purina. Submitted by Nestle Purina. That's what we have. The right people get articles submitted. I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. I am going to submit a Watchdog Wire article to this paper, a Watchdog Wire article. It'll be like, Watchdog Wire exposes Adams County Commissioner or Adams County prosecutor. Watchdog Wire does this. We'll see if they run that. I think you have to have most favored status. It has to be an article the government would approve of. Okay. Has to be an article the government would approve of to be in this paper. Then we got UC Clermont. They regularly submit stuff. Again, another article submitted content, some ads. Then we get into the sports. The only redeeming part of this whole paper is a sports section. So this guy Dowling that does these, Jake Dowling, always fills 2, 3, 4 pages of content, and always has pictures. Well, this picture is provided, but always has pictures of him, where he's gotten the pictures. So this guy, what's this guy? 85-year-old, earns 9 medal at World Police and Fire Games. I don't know what that means. Maybe maybe he won a medal, and I didn't read this article. Maybe he won a medal in shooting a fleeing suspect. Maybe he won an article in using a baton to beat the hell out of a perp. Won a medal. Wouldn't it be funny if the World Police and Fire Games, maybe they are. I got to look at this. Oh, it's high jump and stuff like this. Were actually police stuff, and it was like a Naked Gun movie. Run it back and over a perp with your car, stuff like that. Doing that move where they clip your back end to spin your car out. That's what you have that kind of police games. I'm paying whatever it costs to go. That would be fantastic. When I'm watching that. Okay. Now, Jake Dowling has an article about basically a sex thing involving young people, and basically it sounds like some fake girl catfishing some guy, and him sending a naked picture to her, and then him basically getting blackmailed in some way because of this naked picture. Okay. And I'm all against that, but okay. So here's a tip. Don't fucking take naked pictures of yourself. First thing. Second thing is don't effing, if you do, don't effing send them around on the internet to somebody you don't know. Okay. I don't know. I don't care how good their profile picture is, so, it's like, if you do this stuff, I've told my son, like, no matter what you do, you're going to F up. Right. And you want to be able to say that in your life, you want to be able to say that as much as possible, that you didn't do things that you look at in hindsight when you did them and said, oh shit, and then if you did them, like, if the things you're going to regret, you'd like them to be things that were not under your control. Maybe that's the best way to say it is that were unavoidable, like, they were unavoidable things, like, so you don't want to regret, things that were avoidable. So for example, somebody wrecks into my car. I can't, I had no control over that. I wrecked my car, which I tell everybody it was my fault. I had control over that. That's an error on my part that I have to live with. Now, thank goodness nobody got hurt. Okay. But you want to have as few errors that were your fault as you live with. And sending somebody a naked picture of yourself because they got a hot profile picture and a girl wants to talk to you on a fake profile picture, that's just dumb. And any kid in high school should already know that. And I don't want to go off on a tangent, but one time my mom, I'm going to keep this up here. We were talking around the swimming pool with neighbors, and we were talking about like girls and stuff and lecherous guys and so forth. And my mom just blurts out that any girl that by the time they're 14 doesn't understand guys, it hasn't been talked to by their mom about guys and so forth, and not about the birds and the bees, but about guys, keep yourself out of situations where some guy could grope you or what have you, or put you in a bad position. She's like, that's on the mom. Okay. And her story was there was a guy in the neighborhood when she was a kid, and she would walk we lived on Rainbow Lane in Mount Washington, and she would sometimes walk, I guess, from when she was in school. She would walk from like what is that, Corbly, to back to the house, and there was a dad that would drive by coming home from work or something and offer to give her a ride. And she was like, she knew, don't get in the car with that dad. Okay, he was a handsy guy. Okay, and so she's like, a lot of this stuff, so these kids got to know this. I mean, it's common sense. Any kid, they all know it. They have no basis to know it, to not know it. So, any event, that story's about. Okay, then there's like getting this disc golf course. There's Williamsburg stuff about their scrimmage. Um, this is the cut finish of that story. Eventually sent a nude photo of herself. You know, so you just gotta like, don't be after doing this, dumbasses. If you do it, take responsibility. I think everybody would get, kids, young people, does stupid shit, and take responsibility, move on. Okay, and don't let anybody ever blackmail you over anything. All right. So then we've got the public notices. This is the payola part of the paper. This is why they can't run any articles that would be critical of the government in any way, because they rely on these ads that are government legally required to be put in a paper of record. And Clermont Sun counts as a paper of record. The Enquirer will be an alternate source. But if the government got mad at this paper, they could go to the Enquirer for 2-3 months and drive the paper out of business. So that's why the paper is Pravda. Okay. If we got rid of the requirement of government to do this, a lot of these kind of papers would go out of business. Now, that would be bad. You'd lose, but it would cause there to be a different, the media to change and not be dependent upon government money. This is like the way that the federal government was buying subscriptions to Politico with Biden in there. And, that's why Politico content was always favorable to Biden, not because government people were paying for these large, expensive subscriptions per se, and that influenced the content. So these are the payola articles, the payola ads. Okay. Now we have a article back on page 10 of the Clermont County Prosecutor's Office talking about how awesome they are because they got this guy put away. Okay. But they wrote the article, Pravda. And you got to love this. I love Mark DeCalvy's a super corrupt prosecutor. Okay. And you can go search on the Watchdog Wire, search on Hicks Watchdog. You'll find plenty of receipts. Okay. I don't talk random stuff. Okay. I will give lots of receipts. And it says this big quote at the end here. It says right above where my head is on the screen. The Union Township Police Department put together one of the most thorough and comprehensive investigations. I'm proud of the work of law enforcement as well as the assistant prosecutors in this case. One of them was Zach Zipper, Drunk Zach. Okay. DUI Zach. I am proud of the work of law enforcement as well as assistant prosecutors. Both agencies came together to ensure that justice was served. And my office is committed to sending a message that violent crime will not be tolerated in this community, except if you are Patricia Lambeck and you assault Tina Tolan in a Clermont GOP meeting, in which case his office is committed to covering it up. It is so asinine that our prosecutor's office, it's increasingly a weaponization in certain cases. Okay. And if you're politically on the right side of the equation, you get protected. Okay. If you're not, if you're not, then, you're not. Okay. And I'm not saying that everything they do is they get wrong or this case is wrong. I'm just saying the incredible hypocrisy of Mark DeCalvy to talk about how they're not going to tolerate violent crime when they covered up an assault to protect a person named Patricia Lambeck by getting a forum-shopped, predetermined outcome special prosecutor, Aaron Haslam, to throw the trial by not calling the eyewitness to an assault. Mark DeCalvy is just, I got things my dog leaves in the yard that are worth more than Mark DeCalvy. So, any event, I opine too much. So we've got some more. These are just classifieds here. We've got another article from Mark DeCalvy. It's funny. It does seem like the prosecutor's office is trying hard to prove itself, because I think it's starting to, people are starting to realize what a bad prosecutor Mark DeColvey is and what a clown he is. I still remember I said this. I have no problem saying it. This ex-sheriff Leahy supported Mark DeColvey, and then I was like, at one point with Leahy, like, "Whoa, he's a joke." And and Leahy's answer to me was, "I thought Mark was a different man than he is," and that said it all to me. Said it all. Okay, but here's another quote at the end about DeColvey's going to hold people accountable unless they're connected. And then, or they can do good remodeling projects. If you got something you can do for Mark DeColvey, a service, maybe landscaping, remodeling, whatever, that's your best bet to getting a good deal. That's a best bet to get a good deal from his office is go do something for him, on your personal time. So it's a personal thing. Then we got Matt's article on the Reds. We've got an article about Batavia tennis. We've got some cats in here from, where is this from? Animal Rescue Fund, Amelia. So Amelia. All right. And then, that's it. So that's the paper. That's the 12 pages of the paper. Now I'm almost out of time here. I'm going to race into it because then I got to do some other stuff and I got to get over to Jungle Gym because there's one thing. Jungle Gym was featured in a Daily Mail article just yesterday. And he talked about how his business is still doing good. And I think it's probably almost a big part of that's because I go through his ad every week, just out of general principle. Why do I go through his ad every week? Because he pays to have his ad inserted in at least at the newsstand versions of his paper. But they don't include his ads in the digital version of the paper, which I think is obnoxious. Why wouldn't, if I were him, I'd be, this is bullshit. Put my ad in your digital version also. Okay, so here's his ad. He's got kind of the same layout every time, which I'm sure gets comfortable. The meats, the fish, and you've got meats on the front. Here's what I got to run over there for. I love Dr. Pepper. Selected varieties. If they have cherry Dr. Pepper, I'm loading up the cart. Okay, $1.75. Oh, limit one. Ugh. I got to bring my wife. And maybe Tilly the dog. Maybe she'll count as one. So I can get more of these. Limit one. All right, so $3.99 additional. I'm going in and out the door 5 times. I'll go through every cash register lane. I love Dr. Pepper, and it's $1.75 for a 6-pack of 16. That's a good deal. And what else we got here? Golden Oreos. That's a hell of a deal. $1.75. Oh, app. You have to do it on the app. You're a hell of a deal. I try to not eat these things because I'll start to balloon up. If I eat too many of these Golden Oreo type things, I love those things, but I don't buy them because I don't want to get too much weight. We have meats. We have here. I want to see we're going to see what kind of beer. If they got Natty Light in the beer ad at the end or not. Kool-Aid soda. I'm probably not going to buy that. I probably would have been as a kid. Hostess cupcakes. I should get a bunch of those and tell my wife to make Hostess cupcakes. Bugles. I love Bugles. 2 for $5. That's probably a good deal. I don't know. I never get a price check on Bugles. Red Baron Pizza. That's our brand. I moved up when I was a kid. We were poor and we got Tony's Pizza, but now we're rich and the bakery there, Natural Foods. Don't forget seniors on the website. It says Golden Buckeye Card, 5% off on Wednesday. And then we're going to get down here. Let's see. We got the drinks. The toys. I was going to say toys and collectibles coming up. Puzzles. My wife loves to do puzzles. And I don't know if these are like 1,000-piece puzzles, but when I'm getting my Dr. Pepper, I'll look at their puzzles at 10% off. And bookmarks. Okay. And then let's see here. We're going to pop, and then the beer's coming. The beer and wine's right after this. Let's go. Ale81. I buy Ale81 and then it sits I drink a bottle and then it sits in my refrigerator for like 5 years. It's one at a time too. Good to get it at a drive when you're driving thing. And then Natty Light. Natty Light is always on here. I want some Miller Light on here. My wife drinks Miller Light or Miller 64. And I want to see one of those on there. All right. So that is the Jungle Gym's ad. That is, I read the Clermont Sun so you don't have to, for August 16th. Let me get this music off. Thank you for tuning in. Maybe I'll start doing the People's Defender and some other papers. Maybe I'll start doing other papers in our region that are by Champion Media Group. the Clermont Sun has to be about the worst of the whole group, I think. So it's all just press releases and nonsensical articles, and never has anything that would be critical of the government or show any disagreements taking place in the community. Any event, thank you for tuning in. Have a great rest of the day on Saturday.